What's going on? I'm Eugene Napoleon. This is Napoleon's Corner. Before I get started, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate your support. This is actually episode 210, and the topic of this episode is grace over greed. Grace over greed. Wanted to do this particular topic because I think when you're not sure what people are going through, there's nothing wrong with having grace. I would even say grace 2.0 because anything with, 2.0 attached to it, it means you're better at it. We need to be better at of having grace for other people, man. There's so much stuff going on right now. And just having that grace and understanding about how to communicate with people or how to deal with someone when they're dealing with dark and hardened times is so important. And I know for sure it's unfortunate that we put so much stock in the bottom line of things, the greed of it all, that you forget about grace sometimes, you know? And it's tough. It's tough, In many cases, we make the choice to value things that are really not, that really have no value to it. In the grand scheme of things, you stop to think about it, we place so much value on things that shouldn't be placed in that category, but it's because of the greed factor of it. You know what I mean? And again, in that, you lose your grace because of what you have compared to what somebody else does not have. We have to be mindful of that, and we have to be mindful to show some grace when given the opportunity, because you never know what somebody else is going through. And there can be people that you're right in front of each and every day, and they're not really showing you the difficult times that they're dealing with. I heard this story, man. It brought a tear to my eye. So there was an older fella in the store, maybe he was in his 80s, and he's in line, and there's a younger woman behind him, and they're ringing up the food, and the cashier tells him the dollar amount. And of course, he's taking his time, he's shuffling to get his hands in his pocket to get his wallet out or whatever. And the younger woman behind him is basically, ranting and raving and just not showing grace and just really, basically saying some really unpleasant things to this older gentleman. Like I said, this gentleman had to be in his 80s or whatever. So there's another fella behind her, and he's just watching this whole thing. When they get out the store, the younger woman paid for her stuff or whatever. The older gentleman paid for his. As he's going out the store, he makes eye contact with the other fella. Another fella says to him, he said, "Are you okay?" This older man says, "I just lost my wife 2 weeks ago." And as I stated, this older fella's in his 80s or whatever. And he said, without her, I just don't know what to do anymore. Now, of course, this younger woman behind him in the store didn't know that this older fella lost his wife 2 weeks prior. She had no idea. But that's what I mean about grace. Just showing grace because you don't know what someone is going through. And that it just brings to mind, people tend to think, that power and money rules everything. It does not. That is so far from the truth. Because when you die, you take the power and the money with you. So what does it matter? At the end of the day, the grace and legacy that you leave behind is so much more impactful than the greed that you chase. So much more impactful, right? So when you're gone and God calls you home, right? That legacy, your legacy of being a good person, your legacy of of having humanity towards your fellow man, woman, and child, your legacy of always trying to do the right thing consistently is far more important than all of the things that you accumulated out of greed while you were here on this earth. Trust and believe. People will be more respectful of someone who passed on, who left a legacy of decency, humanity, and grace before they're going to feel sorry for someone who was a greedy, disrespectful, condescending, mean person. Honestly, the legacy that you leave out of grace will be far more respected than the legacy you will leave out of greed. So it's always going to be grace over greed for me personally. I don't understand, you know, the perception is not more important than the reality. That's the key. I think people get so caught up in perception, they get caught up in what somebody has, compared to the grace that someone has. So I'm going to always say that we need to make sure that we take care of each other. I don't care, black, green, purple, orange, white, brown, doesn't matter to me. It's not about the color of your skin. It's not about what you have. It's about how we take care of each other. It truly is. Just show some grace and make sure you have some humanity when it comes to dealing with other people. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that you can leave. That should be something that is more thought provoking and something that is more important. Your legacy should be grace over greed any day. Any day. So I'm hoping, each one teach one. I'm hoping that we grow in that together. Like I said, there's power in numbers. So just keep in mind, treat people respectfully, treat people like they're human beings, and just show some grace because you just don't know what somebody else is going through. I'm Eugene Napoleon. This is Napoleon's Corner. I'll see you next week. Take care.